In this episode of the Tech Jawn, we discuss new guidelines on pulse oximeters, easy to cancel subscriptions, passkeys replacing passwords, and using AI to ace job interviews. We've got all this and more for you in episode 151 of the Tech Jawn. From Columbus, Ohio, I'm Robb Dunewood.
And coming out of Philly, it's your girl Tech Life Steph.
And out of Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, a.k.a. BrothaTech, a.k.a. my camera issues continue. And now I'm having a problem with my mouse for some reason, but we're going to roll it how it rolls. So, yeah, I caught myself getting a new camera as a podcasting camera this week. It is terrible. I can't think of a worse display screen. It was so bad that I put all three cameras up. I've got this main camera that I'm using right now that I've having software issues with. I've got my cell phone that I was using, a cell phone camera, and this new Logitech 4K stream cam thing. Oh, it was so bad. I had to put the video that I recorded in the Discord or something because I can't believe that they will sell something this bad. Now, again, you're not looking at it right now. Still, I could use some lighting work, but we're back to my original camera and back to square one. So, yeah, Robb gave me the suggestion to spend some more money and get a nicer camera.
Spend some more money. That's all. Just spend some more money.
I refuse to believe the only option for a decent vlogcast, I guess I'll call it a vlogcast camera, is you have to get like a mirrorless or a DSLR camera. It's like nobody, business idea, business pitch out there, anybody that is listening with some mechanical engineering or some manufacturing, make a vlog casting camera that you do for video podcasts. That'd be my business. That'd be my business opportunity.
So they have them. They exist. And it's not even an issue. Some of them are quite good. I've seen many of them reviewed that people like. As I said, it's not an issue, but what is happening is that when you're getting into those nicer webcams that are going to cost you $300, $400, you also are getting into the low range of the mirrorless cameras that are going to cost you $400, $500. So it's like, okay, well, wait a minute. This I can only plug in my computer and only use it to do this thing, or this other camera I can plug it into my computer and do all those things on the computer, but I can also unplug it from the computer and take pictures or shoot movies with it or do whatever I want. So you're right there on that cusp.
Well, they need to show me these nicer end web camera streaming cameras so I can find it, because again, I am hell bent on not buying a new camera in the sense that Robb just mentioned.
I'm going to use my camera next week just so we can both have cameras and you can have a camera so we can maybe see like the difference. I'm going to use my camera next week. Or actually, I'm not going to be here next week. I'll use it in November when I come back.
But what are you using right now? You're using your Max Web FaceTime.
This is FaceTime, yeah.
I refuse to believe that this camera that I spent $200, $250, $300 almost, that my standard of the mill regular old FaceTime camera, because I turn mine on.
Yeah, well, here's what, Steph, tell me if I'm wrong, but here's where the difference is. She is using the camera in her brand new MacBook, but she's using the lights that she also uses with that nice.
True.
I have one softbox, one Neewer softbox light, like directly in front of me. That's it. And I mean, I have
that's enough. As you actually have a actual camera light in front of you, Terrance.
Yeah,
you using what, a house light or something like that? Or
no, I've got a Loom podcasting camera. I got two of them that articulate, and they can change the softness. They can get blue, white. They can get yellow light, yellow, white.
Are you backlighting anything behind you?
No, I've got my little leg light.
Now, see, here's the thing. Just turning your camera angle right there, your picture improves significantly just because you have more white balance and more light coming from behind you.
And that may be it. Like everything in your shot right now is dark AF. Like your shirt, your backdrop, your chair. I mean, you brown, like it's all blended in. You're blending in, like you're blending into the background. Basically, everything is just your mic. Like everything's all blending in. So you might need to do a little contrast,
break it up a little bit, do some color blocking. Is that what they call it?
Yeah. So y'all, before we get into these, into these tech stories, I want to remind patrons to stick around until after the show for the after party. We've got some pretty good topics to cover over there, including why, and I think all of us said this last week, that we're kind of spending less time on social media. And we're going to just talk about why we're more into maybe creating our own communities and newsletters and such and stuff like that. So that's going to be one of the topics we talk about in the after party. There will be others. You can, of course, get access to the after party by becoming a patron. So head over to thetechjohn.com/Patreon to find out more. And with that, we're going to jump into these tech stories. The first one is actually one that we did not have time for last week, but it's a good story, so I wanted to bring it back. And it's about the FDA is actually going to be issuing some new guidelines on pulse oximeters. We talked about this. It's probably been a minute. It's probably a little closer to when we were in the throes of the pandemic. But for those who don't know, pulse oximeters are those little things they put on your finger when you go to the doctor's office or the hospital, ER, anywhere where they're trying to get your blood oxygen saturation levels. And they are notoriously inaccurate for darker toned people, as much as 3 times more inaccurate for Black folks as they are for white folks. So the FDA is actually looking for new guidelines. But here's the thing. The industry has pushed back so hard. The guidelines are going to be, well, only use them. You can use them on Black folks to give us some new guidelines. Just make sure they're very healthy, because when they're sick, that's when they don't really work. And we don't. So we don't want that to affect the $3 billion we're about to make next year selling these jokers.
Yeah, it's some bullshit. And the reason this is important is because, number one, you may delay vital treatment if you think your pulse oxygen, your blood oxygen level is normal when it's not. And also for people who use home oxygen. So people that have a little portable oxygen tank that they carry around, Medicare only pays for that if the pulse ox reading says that it should. So if you're getting a overinflated pulse ox reading that says you have normal blood oxygen, and you don't get your oxygen that you need to survive. So this is a legitimate life and death issue for a lot of people. And the fact that, these companies know this, and they know it, even take Black folks out of the equation. I've been to the doctor where they will twist that thing 90 degrees because my nail polish is too dark. And they'll look at the reading and they'll be like, oh, this doesn't look right. Oh, it's probably your nail polish. And they'll twist the pulse ox to go, like I said, 90 degrees. So it won't be sitting right on top of my fingernail to get a better reading. So folk already know that this thing does not work. It doesn't work for white folks that got dark nail polish, you know what I mean? Male or female. So it's just like the idea that you would know that there are already deficiencies in this technology that are easily solvable by just doing the testing, and not do it is negligence, at best, but malicious homicidal intent at worst. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like, just make the machine better. I can't think that it would be that much more difficult to test this in a way that benefits everybody.
And it's kind of sad because we go to the doctor, we go to the hospital, they use their equipment, and we trust that it works. And so do the doctors. So they trust that the technology works. So whatever the reading says is whatever the reading says. Forget your instincts, not forget, but they tend to focus on the technology first, and then that's acting up, and then they try to go into triage / old school doctors, where you just trust in how people feel. Nope, technology's got to be right. It's made by big wigs,
right? Never mind, I'm telling you, I can't breathe.
Yeah. One of the stories in the article that we were pulling from was a Black man who actually, I believe he has emphysema. So he's home and he's got this, pulse oximeter checking, and it's telling him that he's fine, even though he doesn't feel good. Well, the machine's saying I'm good, so he delays going to the hospital. When he gets there, it's like, oh, whoa, you're in a bad way. So that's part of it. And then another story was a doctor who is just wondering, like, how many patients have I actually misdiagnosed because I'm trusting the medical equipment that is given to me? And I believe that she actually filed a lawsuit where they're suing the makers of these devices and the stores that sell them. It's like, that these things are inaccurate for the communities that I serve. You need to do something better. So I just thought it was interesting that the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, they did say, well, yeah, we're going to go ahead and issue some new guidelines. But because the lobby from the industry is so strong, they're essentially not going to issue new guidelines on sick African Americans, because that's where these things don't tend to work as well.
Well, it says hospitalized people are often dehydrated with restricted blood flow to their extremities. This condition, known as low perfusion, essentially poor circulation, is particularly common with cardiovascular disease, which is much more prevalent in Black patients. So pigmentation and poor perfusion work together to degrade pulse oximetry performance, and they're not doing the testing on people that are actually sick. So you're not really gauging and making sure that the equipment is going to work if you're not testing it on people that don't actually have an issue. So
make that make sense. It's like, we know that this is problematic for people with darker skin tones. Yeah. But people with darker skin tones, they tend to actually suffer from low perfusion more often. And Black people with low perfusion is where these things really don't work well. So don't test there. Right. Just test with the healthiest of them, preferably with no fingernail polish on, so that we can actually get new guidelines. It's like the guidelines probably are going to change a bit, but they're not going to change enough. They're going to still basically adversely diagnose people who are sick with dark skin tones. And I don't know how you, as the FDA, allow that to happen, but I guess
they haven't done much. They haven't done much in the past anyway. They're back in 2007. They suggested that new oximeters could include, quote unquote, a sufficient number of subjects with dark skin pigmentation, e.g., 30%. However, the final guidance from 2013 recommended at least 2 darkly pigmented subjects, or 15% of your subject pool, whichever is larger. And the studies were only required to have 10 subjects. So how are you even, that goes against the whole scientific method, just by virtue of you only testing 10 people to make sure that this thing works. Because now if you're only testing 10 people, only 1.5 of those people are going to be Black. And it's just not enough of a sample size to determine whether or not a device is functioning properly. And so it's just you're doing this. And I don't want to say it's performative, but it feels very performative in the sense that the guidelines don't have any teeth. They're not enforceable. They can't make these companies do these tests and run these tests. These are all recommendations and suggestions, basically. And the suggestions don't even accomplish the goal that they're set out for in the first place. So, I mean, I get it, baby steps, but how, we can't afford baby steps in this life or death situation. We can't really afford to take these baby steps. And how long are we going to have to take them before more people just keep dying?
I believe we said this the last time we talked about pulse oximeters on this show, but take your healthcare into your own hands as much as you can. So if you are in an unfortunate situation where you are in an ER or an urgent care, but you are there, you're able to speak on your own behalf, tell them that you don't want them to just go by the by the pulse oximeter that you want them to actually do a blood test. It is it's a more expensive test and it's a little harder to do, but it's way more accurate for everybody, but definitely for folks who we know that the pulse oximeter is inaccurate for. Also, if you're not the one who is, in need of the urgent care, tell them, hey, make sure you test my wife with a blood test. Make sure you test my husband, my child, my uncle, whoever you are taking to the hospital.
Big mama.
You just got to let them know that, hey, we want you to do these things, because if you don't tell them and they don't do it, and it's like, I don't even blame the nurses and the doctors if they don't know, because it's possible that they don't know that these things.
Absolutely. I'm definitely not blaming the healthcare professionals, but when you know better, you need to do better. And at this point, like, healthcare professionals just need to be like, we running blood tests and see how quick. That's the thing. You got to hit people in a pocket. Cash rules. Start running those blood tests regularly and see how quickly they fix these monitors when the insurance companies have to pay more money for the blood test than they would for the pulse ox, and see how quick they get done. So just start running blood tests and start racking up them bills.
You won't need the FTC or should say the FDA to have to change anything, because the insurance companies show enough wheels. Like,
absolutely,
we're not going to keep paying for all these tests. Y'all need to get these things working right, or something else is going to have to give.
That's right. That's all they got to do.
So I just said FTC. Maybe I'm foreshadowing our next story, because the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, is about to make it a whole lot easier to cancel subscriptions. Now, I don't know if y'all have ever tried to cancel. Gym memberships seem to be the worst. You go into a gym and you can sign up, and you give them your credit card number and you're good to go. You want to cancel that joker, you can't call them. You can't send them an email. Sometimes you can't even, go to my gym membership allows me to go to multiple gyms, but I can only cancel at the gym that I signed up at. Even though I've got like 3 new ones that have been built since I've had my gym membership that are closer to me than the original one was, I have to go to the original to actually cancel. Well, the Federal Trade Commission has said, no, we're going to make it as easy for people to cancel stuff as it is for them to sign up to it. And I can't, it's not just going to be gyms and health clubs, but it's got to be easier than what it is now.
Before I had the current Amazon Prime membership that I have now, I canceled a membership and then got it back. When I tell you the bullshit that it was literally like 4, maybe 5 screens that were completely misleading. So it would be like, cancel. And it'd be like, are you sure you want to cancel? Big up at the top. Are you sure you want to cancel? Get 50%. Like, there'd be a huge deal on the thing. And then if you still wanted to cancel, it was in very small letters underneath all of the rest of that you had to say, yes, I still want to cancel. And they did that at least through 4 to 5 different screens, where if you weren't paying very, very close attention, it was not obvious at all how to cancel that damn Prime membership. Amazon is wilding with their cancellations for real. So this can only be a good thing.
Yeah, it's just sad that, to keep hold of your money, you got to literally jump through some hoops in order to get your money back. And it's crazy that they've actually tried to make this a game to cancel a subscription. Like Stephanie mentioned, they'll put the little X, the same color as the background, which is white. They'll put it in super tiny letters, like you mentioned, at the bottom. It's like, yo, man, come on.
They'll put you on a timer. I've seen that where it'll time out. The page will time out, and then you got to start that joker over because they made you read through a litany of stuff.
But most of them I've ran into is email, email support to cancel your subscription. I'm like, I didn't have to email support to start my subscription.
That's right.
Canceling my subscription, which is just, I don't understand why FTC had to jump in, but canceling my subscription should be as easy as signing up for a subscription.
Right.
They
have to jump in because consumers are tired of, why do I have to spend literally my entire lunch trying to cancel something I don't want anymore? And some of these services, I will say this, depending on what credit card you use, But some of them are very good that if you say, hey, I've done everything I can to try to cancel this service, can you no longer give them the money? And let's see if that works. Some of them are actually, credit card companies will do that for you. Okay, we won't allow this charge to go through. Some of these companies are then going out and basically hitting your credit report saying that you owe them money. Even, it's like, I'm not paying you any money. I don't want the service. Just cancel the service. But they actually saying, but you signed, you signed up and you said you were going to give us this money unless you did this to cancel. And they've actually gone out and hit people's credit report on that, which is completely jacked up to me. So I am a fan of this. And I've said this many times. I have not tried to cancel Amazon Prime. I love that account. But I have become a serial churner because I found that canceling like like Amazon Prime is the only one I could think of. I just said that, but Paramount or Disney Plus or those things, I found they're relatively easily to cancel on my phone. So one of the reasons why I will sign up and watch something, and then when I'm done watching it, cancel, because it's just easy to do. Mm-hmm. But a lot of companies don't roll that way. They make it significantly difficult. So I am all for one happy for this because, like I said, I tried to cancel a gym membership, and it's like, you really gonna make me drive to the other side of town?
Yeah, you can forget.
I signed up to cancel. You can see that I'm paying here. What it's like, you could take the payment here. Why can't you cancel it here?
The only thing I didn't like about this, I mean, I love that it's going to be an actual rule that the companies will have to adhere to, as opposed to the last story we just talked about where it's a recommendation. This is actually going to be a rule. However, some of the language is very, very vague. They want proof of consent, that you know what you're signing up for and that you're, intentionally and actively saying, yes, it's either an enthusiastic yes or it's a no kind of deal. But the proof of consent could be anything. It could just be checking a box, which is what it typically is now, which we don't read all the stuff before we check the box and say yes. And it's just a really sketchy, threshold to meet proof of consent for that. Also, they say that there should be no overly burdensome cancellation, quote unquote overly burdensome, end quote, for cancellation. That's hella vague as well. Amazon might not think having to click through 5 screens to cancel your membership is overly burdensome. Your gym may not think having to drive past 4 gyms to go to the gym you signed up at to cancel is overly burdensome. But, so a lot of the requirements sound very subjective and sound very vague. And if corporations like corporations, they're probably going to do everything they can to try to get around them.
I'll just say this. Anything has got to be better than what it was, though. I will take what I can get. If you're making it better, if you're making it so that the ease of which I sign up is the ease of which I must be able to cancel, even though that may be a little bit vague, it's got to be better than, no, I understand that we are all one club and I can take your bill. I can take payment here at this club that you're coming to. But when you signed up all the way on the other side of the city. So you need to go there to actually do the cancellation. That's stupid. That is dumb. That now this has been years ago that happened, but I was like, I moved and I was like, I really don't need to go to this gym anymore. I'm going to put one in my basement. And I had to literally drive back across the city just to go cancel an account. That is just the dumbest thing in the world. So I'm glad that they are doing something to make these things better.
I guess something's better than nothing. More baby steps.
So speaking of baby steps, y'all, we have been trying for forever to come up with something better than passwords. And it looks like, and we've talked about Passkeys before, but it looks like Passkeys could actually be the thing that replaces passwords. Now, for those who don't know, Passkeys, and I'm not going to get into the deep technical of what they are. But
explain it to me like I'm 5. I know there's somebody out there that does not understand, and I'm, I get it, but I would love an Eli 5 on Passkeys?
So I will start at the top with a password. So basically, when you create an account, let's just say you go create an account for your bank, they're going to ask you for a username that you must create. When you're creating the account, you put in your information and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And at some point, you're going to have to create a password. Now, hopefully, the password will be complex. The problem is that people can't remember more than one or two complex passwords. So one of the problems with creating passwords today, even though they've got all these things with capture and recap, all these things to make you create safe passwords, people just can't remember, passwords that might be 10, 12 characters long.
And not when they have to be different for every account and
right.
A capital letter, a symbol.
Exactly.
Number.
So here's where the problem comes in. You get one complex password that you like, and you keep rolling with that same password across multiple sites. And that's problematic because here's the problem is like if your password gets hacked on one site and people figure it out, they're going to use that to try to attack other sites to see if you're using the same password username other places. So passwords are, they serve a purpose and we've been using them for 50 plus years, but we've just been trying to get to something better. So the FIDO Alliance has come out with what they call a passkey. And once again, what a passkey is it's actually a cryptographic type situation where you are creating what is called a private key that is going to exist on something like your phone, your Android phone, your iPhone. It exists in your browser, on your Mac, on your PC. And there will also be a public key. The public key will actually exist with the site you're trying to authenticate with. And in order for you to authenticate, what ends up having to happen is that you have to take your private key and match it up with the public key. And as long as those things vibe, then they're going to say, oh, this is you. We're going to allow you to log in. Now, here's the thing. Your private key, you've got to authenticate to be able to use it. So you've got to either use your fingerprint to authenticate via your phone. You've got to use, like a retina or facial ID. To actually say this is me, and then only once that has happened will it then send that private key. Well, it won't send it. Will it then allow the calculation to happen with the private key and the public key to determine that you are you? So you can only do this if you have your phone, if you have your Mac, if you have your Windows PC or whatever other device that you are authenticating with when you're creating these passkeys. It is ridiculously secure. And it also it eliminates the issue of using the same password on multiple sites, because you don't even know. Not only do you not know what a password is, the password doesn't exist here. You don't even have to know what your username is. You just have to have, for me, I use it with Amazon. I use it with Best Buy, and I use it, to authenticate with Google regularly. It makes me come in.
So let me stop you for a second. I got a question. So what is the difference between doing it this way and just using Face ID to get into like an app? So
Face ID by itself is just authenticating you with biometrics on the thing that you're on. So you're authenticating to get into your iPhone. I use my fingerprint to authenticate to get into my Android device. But when it is a website, if you're trying to go to Best Buy and log in, it can't just be you authenticating on your phone. That website also has to have something that it knows about you, that it can do a handshake with something to say you are who you say you are. Mm-hmm. Let's let you in and give you, the access to the credentials based off of what we believe that, from this passkey that's being set up. And like I said, there's a whole lot of math that goes into this that I'm not going to, go into. But long story short, basically what a passkey is making you do is that you have to have something that you have, like a phone or a computer, where you can authenticate via Face ID or a thumbprint, or you've got some kind of fob that you can authenticate with your thumb. You've got to have that, and you also have to have that public key that exists in the website that you're trying to authenticate to. And only when those two things match up are you going to be able to authenticate. These things work very, very well. Now, some people are going to say, well, what if I forget my phone? Or what if I forget my, what if I, lost my PC? There's always workarounds and ways to get around it. There can be workarounds and ways to get around it. And particularly with places like Amazon and Best Buy, they definitely build in redundancies because they want you to always be able to spend money with them. But they are ridiculously secure. Some of the issues that people will have with them is that, well, if you have 618 passwords, or now you have 618 passkeys, what if I get a new phone? What if I decide to no longer use Android and I'm now going to go use my iPhone? How do I port all of this information that existed on one device that required me to log in now goes over to another device? How do we do that? And that's been a problem. There wasn't a way to do that. And technically there still isn't. This hasn't actually been approved yet. But the FIDO Alliance, the organization behind Passkeys, they've got a couple of measures that they're trying to work on that's going to do this. The first one is called Credential Exchange Protocol, or CXP, and it will make Passkeys portable between digital ecosystems. So you could create a passkey on your iPhone and then transfer that over to your Android device. Or you could create a passkey on your Windows PC and then transfer that over to your Mac and still use it.
So I got a question. If say I'm using passkeys currently, I have different passkeys for every service or website or anything that I need to log into. The passkey is going to be different for each one of those.
Not only that, you may have multiple passkeys for the same site. So yes, for every single service that you use, you will have a different passkey, which is exactly what you want if you want to be secure.
Do I know? Like if that's, I don't.
But here's the thing. So remember,
I
you don't have to remember.
This isn't sounding that much better than a password to me.
It's way better, because mathematically you will not generate two passkeys that have the same that are the same, whereas with a password, you will have my PASS.
No. What is the difference between this and a password manager?
So a password manager,
like, how is this better? I'll put that because right now my password manager generates my passwords for me.
Mm-hmm.
And they do the strong 20. I can set it to be 25
Absolutely.
Characters or whatever. So what would be the benefit of this over a password manager if I'm still needing different ones for everything, and I still got to authenticate with my face? I still got to, you know what I mean? Like it seems like a little bit more work at this point. When my browser extension to my 1Password logs me in automatically. Now you're telling me I got this passkey, I still got to use my fingerprint, I still got to da. And I'm all for more security. So, don't get me wrong. If the answer is just more, it's more secure, I guess I'll eat that. But I'm wondering what the benefit is.
Your password manager is still by default using passwords, which themselves are inherently insecure because they're passwords. It's a username and it's a password. And just because your password manager is very good at telling you, hey, you're using the same password, on 19 different sites, it doesn't make you change them. It recommends that you should, but you are technically able to still use a password manager and use the same password for every site that you would want to create a password on. Makes no sense that you pay for a password manager to do that, or even use one of the free ones to do that. But you can.
Yeah,
but you absolutely can. But you still are going to that site and you are using that site to create a username and create a password. And you are authenticating with that site. So you now have this username and password that if anyone else, regardless of whether they have your password vault or not, your password manager or not, if they can figure out what your username and password is, they can go log into that website without you ever knowing about it. Because it doesn't require that they actually handshake with your device and authenticate to it. It only requires that they actually know your username and password. And that's really all the password manager is doing, is just creating really, really good usernames and really, really complex passwords. They are way better than just raw dogging it, just type in a username and a password. Way better than that.
What Stephanie's kind of getting at is, how do people adopt this without it being complicated, right? Talking about passwords versus passkeys and authentication and crypto biometrics and things like that. I think what people have to remember is that now you need something like your phone to authenticate who you are, to then handshake with the different passkeys and things of that nature. So people have to remember, it's like, all right, instead of me coming up with a password that I can make an easy one that somebody could crack, and if somebody cracks my, OneNote or my password manager, for example, that has all my passwords, now they just have all my passwords. versus the pass key is like, regardless of what website you go to, no matter what what service you're using, in order to do that handshake, you still need your device, and you need to authenticate your device using your face, your finger, or some other passcode. Because on smartphones that I think most people use for passkeys, you still can authenticate and get into your phone using a 4-digit passcode, which that ain't all that secure either. But if you are forced, if people are like, oh, I'm concerned about my security, let me use a longer passcode than 4 digits. You can go to 6, because you have to have something back up. Because like Stephanie, like you mentioned, if the phone is acting up and can't recognize my face or can't recognize my thumb or my finger, then there has to be a way to get in, which is that passcode. So basically what they're doing is, instead of just coming up with passwords, all right, we need to come a little bit more technologically savvy. Use your face, use your thumb, use your phone. You need all those 3 in concert. Then you get into the website or the service or whatever the case may be.
So Saray said multi-factor authentication will always be more secure, which is what a passkey does with less steps. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes. Because with the 2-factor authentication, you log in using your username, you still log in using your password, and then the website says, oh, all right, well, prove it's you. Let's send you this code, and then you got to verify with this code. Passkey is doing all that with 1 step.
Right.
Okay.
So it's taking that and it's making it.
That's all I just needed. Explain it to me like I'm 5. That's it.
So see, your problem was you actually asked me. Well, you could have asked Ray. So Ray would have asked
Ray from the beginning.
Ray would have gave you a 9-paragraph answer in 4 words. It's like it's just better. It's better than 2FA
without the extra steps.
It's significantly more secure, and it doesn't make you have to have a password manager. So, when you go and if you go to Best Buy and you set it up, you don't have to have a password manager. You literally just have to have something on your side that is capable of creating a passkey. And that's going to be like your web browser can do it. Your iPhone can do it. Your Android device can do it. Your actual Mac can do it. Your PC can do it. So pretty much anything that you're going to use to go to that website, you can use to go. And then the other side of it is
you're telling me basically, and I hate to keep interrupting, but I'm just, because the people listening may not necessarily have this background either. When I get the pop-up in my browser that asks me if I want to create a passkey, I should say yes, is what you're telling me. Because I typically am like, no, because I already got a password for it. It's like, I already got a password. Like, what do I need a passkey for? Like I said, it had really not been obvious to me. I mean, like I said, I understand that the point was a more secure process and a more secure experience. I get it. But it wasn't, it didn't seem like it was secure enough for me to
switch everything up.
Yeah, to ditch everything that I've done, with these passwords to move over here to this thing. So, but it sounds like what you're telling me is that when I get a notification that says, do you want to create a passkey for this account? Say yes.
Well, yes, but also again, this ain't universally accepted or adopted either. So, and there's still some websites, some still are going to try to do something, a little bit different, or try to do something more proprietary, until it becomes as ubiquitous as a password. When you tell anybody, put in your password, they know what that means. When somebody says, all right, 2-factor authentication, you're like, all right, what? And you say, all right, now put in your passkey. I'm like, well, what?
So
as soon as those become as ubiquitous as entering a password, then everything will standardize, and then it'll be as simple as, oh, you just need your phone.
Well, and that's the thing. I think that's the thing. I think we need standardization to where you only need one passkey. If I have to have 1,000 different passkeys.
Well, you need them per device. So if you're using your Mac to sign in, your Mac will have its own passkey, your phone will have its own passkey, your iPad will have its own passkey.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, but then to the same website,
for different websites.
And for every website you go to, you're going to have potentially multiple passkeys for those websites, depending on how you log on.
And that's the part that doesn't make any sense to me. Because I'm like, what is the point of that?
Because you don't have to remember anything.
Right.
You're not remembering anything. They're trying
to take the security out of the user's hands by having to create something. If you don't have to create something, in general, they're like that safer because the computer, the technology, your device is doing it versus you, the weakest link.
So think of it like
ABC
this.
1, 2, 3.
So think of it like this. Let's just say you have 10 websites that you go to that all give you the ability to create a passkey.
Okay.
Your experience with logging into each of them is you go to the website, you and it says FaceTime or Face ID since you use an iPhone. You hold your phone up to your face and now you're logged in. Does it matter to you that each one of those sites has a different passkey? It should make no difference to you.
I mean, I don't like what that it just seems like it defeats the purpose of this. It doesn't seem like it's streamlining the process. And I mean, I guess that's where I'm getting hung up. It doesn't I don't know necessarily that I feel like it's creating more work, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it's actually streamlining the process either, which I would think would be the point of making everybody switch. Besides the security, I know we baselined it's more secure, but if you're asking people to adopt this technology, it has to feel easier for people to adopt it, and it doesn't feel like that the way I'm hearing it explained right now. It doesn't necessarily feel
maybe
easier.
I'm failing.
And people aren't going to use it if it feels like more work. You know what I'm saying? Like whether it's secure or not, it feels like more work. Is a
passkey more work than a password? Yes, because with a password, you don't have to have anything. You just have to remember stuff. You can remember my username is Big Bad Robb 87. And my password is PA, $$ W0RD.
My password manager got all that information.
Okay, well, see, here's the thing. Does your password, what you're saying is that you want your password manager to only ever create one username and one password.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying this doesn't feel like an easier process.
Right.
If it just and just so by that virtue alone,
challenge you.
I think you're not. That's why you're not seeing the adoption because it's.
Have you ever created a passkey yet?
I think I have. I'm sure I probably I have a couple. I'll go in my phone and look at it, but I think I have a few in there.
To go to a website that accepts it. Like to Best Buy, you can do it with your account there. You could definitely do it with Amazon. I actually have in here that 175 million Amazon users now use Passkey since last year.
I think I do have an Amazon Passkey. I think I have used a Passkey to get in there.
I would just challenge you to set one up and see what that process is like, because all you do to set one up is say, yes, I like to use Passkey. And then it'll ask you to authenticate with your device. So for me, I put my thumb on my phone and I'm done. That's it. That's the only thing that I need to do. So now every time I go to the website, I literally just hit my thumb and I'm now logging in, to the website.
I get it. Like I said, I definitely get. Lamar talked about the password manager getting broken. Like I get the security piece of it. Mm-hmm. I get that it's more secure. Like we've baselined that. Mm-hmm. However, like I said, it just doesn't feel easier.
It's not about your feelings, Stephanie. How does it make you feel?
It is.
It's kind of like saying you want 2FA to feel easier than not having 2FA. In some level, you have to have a thing. In this case, you have to, let's just say for us, we have to have our phones or we have to have a, Windows PC or a Mac. Those things you have to have. With passwords, you don't have to have that. You just have to have the username and the password. So that's going to be different.
And I guess in Passkeys' defense, I have 2FA set up everywhere I can. Mm-hmm. And I use it every single time. Like I don't even let it trust my devices. You know what I mean? Like I know, don't trust this iPhone. Ask me for that damn code every single time.
Passkey is easier than that.
And that's what I was getting to. I'm like, so I guess in the larger sense of ease of use, if I don't have to get that code and don't have to wait for that code or go back into my email to get a code or wait for the text message to come through and get it in there fast enough so that they don't have to send me a new one, I suppose I am willing to concede that it would be an easier process than doing all of that. So I will look into actually using the passkeys
and adoption on these things is really fast. So as Terrance, you said earlier, it's still not settled. There are other places that are going to use other things potentially. Somebody might say, another alliance that's not FIDO might come out and say, well, we want to try this thing that works, as effectively or more effectively than Passkeys do. That is completely possible. But what's I believe is going to happen is that when you have the Amazons of the world, and they've already got 175 million people using it, and then you get the Googles of the world, and you get the Apples of the world, and you get the Best Buys of the world, and the IRS. The IRS is not using this yet. Don't know that they're going to, but they've thought about it. It's like
they
something
should be the main ones.
They're doing something called ID.me. Which is like a long,
they did switch it. Yeah, they made us switch it up.
Yeah.
So. But the thing is, passwords haven't gone away. It hasn't if you're using passkey on some sites and you're using passwords on the other sites, then you're somehow more insecure than you were if you were just using one or the other. That's not the case. So it's, I'm a fan of it because anything that keeps my father from calling me, say, son, what's my password or how do I log on to this thing again? Because he refuses to use a password manager and he can't remember anything. So whenever we make those passwords long, I have him in my password manager and he literally I am his two-factor authentication. Son, what is my password so I can log into this while he literally is trying to log into whatever he's trying to log into. Passkeys essentially make that go away. But I do understand your point. There is more of a lift than using a password because you have to have your phone. So, when we first started talking about passkeys a couple of years ago, people were saying, well, if I don't have my phone with me, I need to log in. Well, what would you do if you couldn't remember your password and you needed to log in? They always give you another way to authenticate and prove who you are. This is for the masses that'll be logging in with passkeys because for most people these days, they never are more than 3 feet away from their phone for any more than 30 minutes at a time.
I get it. I get it.
Basically, the way it makes sense to me is the linchpin of security is the human. All right, let's just take them on out.
Right.
You creating a password is still you in the mix. You doing two-factor authentication is still in the mix because somebody could have your whatever the case may be. So it's like, all right, what else can we do to where it's like the human is all the way out?
Didn't we talk about this last week with the self-driving car? It's always the human that makes it. That's the problem.
Out of here.
Humans always the problem.
It's like, what's your username? I don't know. What's your password? Don't have one.
Take them out altogether. Just take them out. The robots know better. Get rid of all the humans.
I am a fan because I'm just thinking I used to, going back years, I used to use something called the YubiKey, which is basically like a thumb fob that had a fingerprint reader on it that I would have to plug into a computer, hit my thumb on it to be able to authenticate into servers and stuff way, way, way back in the day when I was doing that kind of work. This just makes a lot of that so much easier because people just always have their phones. They always have a computer that they can get to. They always have a browser. And what you're able to do now is that you're using 1Password. You can put passkeys in 1Password. What's going to happen if this, let me go back to it. What was it called? CXP, Central Exchange Protocol. If FIDO gets that through, what you'll be able to do is say, I'm not using 1Password anymore. I'm now using some other password manager. I want to take all of my passkeys and move them into this other thing. You're able to do that. So I see this probably being the thing that ultimately wipes out passwords, and it can't come soon enough.
We'll see.
It's going to be a minute.
It's going to be a minute. It's going to be a minute because it just took us 25 minutes to explain what was going on. Yeah. So, but I will say I will be using it.
I will leave with this. And one of the things the FIDO Alliance is trying to do is they're trying to take out the cryptographic exchange and a private key and public key. They're trying that language needs to be there because that language means something and it tells people who understand it how things work. But they're saying, oh, just use Face ID or just use Windows Hello or just use your thumbprint reader on this device or that device. They're trying to make it as easy as possible. And I think what's going to happen is because many people are adopting it. There used to be a time when you would say that you've got to do two-factor authentication and you got to authenticate with your eyes on your phone. And people are like, what are you talking about? But no one even questions that anymore. It's just how you log into your iPhone. So I think that the further we get away from, or the further we go along with it, the more use cases people just kind of understand it.
Passkeys needs better PR. Is what you're telling me.
Mm-hmm.
Fido Alliance is doing that. They had a whole conference last week.
Much better PR.
Yeah, they had a whole conference, and I don't want to sound like I'm stumping for them. I have no relationship with them. It's just that I do understand, to some extent, what they're doing and why they're trying to do it.
They need.
We're going to get into this last story right fast that you want to talk about, and I just kind of want to get y'all's take on this. Are people trying to actively replace themselves with AI? We have a story here where people are literally using AI to cheat on interviews. And I'm like, I thought everybody was worried about AI replacing them. It seems like people are really rushing out to replace themselves with AI. But yeah, this story here, I think, Steph, you linked to this one. It's in the Times, the Times UK, where they actually have software that people are using the software while they are in a live interview with an interviewer, an actual human being, and they're using almost like teleprompter type technology to answer questions during the interview.
It's bananas. It's a company called Final Round AI, and what they will do is allow you to train the AI for that particular job by uploading your resume, your cover letter, your CV, the job description, all those different things, and it will listen as you are interviewing and propose answers to the questions that the people or that the interviewer is asking you. And I'm just like,
in real time.
That's insane. And it's just like, what does this say about the future of our workforce, where you're going to have people exploiting this technology to get hired that don't actually know how to do these jobs and aren't actually qualified to do these jobs. And it's just like, we already got Gen Z quiet quitting and people complaining about how younger people work these days. And now you add this to the mix, where people don't even have to interview. And the founders tried to frame it in the perspective of, taking away interview anxiety and some people just don't interview well and all of that. And that's fine. However, this, I don't believe, is the solution for that. You can actually do mock interviews with this software tool as well. I think that's where people need to spend more of their time. But that's not what people are going to do. You've just given them a cheat code. They're going to cheat.
So the language, when you say cheating, I guess my question would be where I guess people are smart enough to know that as long as they don't say you can't use a teleprompter or you can't use notes or you can't whatever, then it ain't cheating if they ain't outline it in the interview. Number one, that's number one.
But the definition of cheating is putting forth work you didn't do.
Yeah, but if you're uploading your own, basically the way I understood this is I train the AI by uploading my resume, my cover letter, my whatever the case may be. The AI kind of learns that. And then during the interview, listens for questions and then scans my information that it used to train to see if there's a better answer or an answer that you should use based off of how you trained it, right? So if I'm uploading my resume and it says back in 2002, I helped a company raise $5,000. And then somebody asked me the question, hey, tell me about a point in your career to where something you came up with helped the company and why. And if you can't remember, the way this AI works is, hey, Terrance, you did raise the money to raise $5,000. Somebody's gonna read it and be like, oh yeah, right. So I guess my thing is, if the employers are using AI to filter out who I am based on my name, based on my gender, based on whatever the case may be. All right, we're about to level the playing field, Jack.
And I have that as one of my notes too. Like, is this, par for the course to combat bad interviews and interviews using AI? So then why can't you just have your resume sitting there?
Because people are nervous and people crack under pressure, which is half of the problem.
Which is being able to communicate.
You learning how to express yourself according to your skills, history, or whatever the case may be, in and of itself is a skill that people ain't just trying to learn. It's just like, give me this.
And that's the problem.
AI thing, give me that.
And that's the bigger issue here.
But again, if I'm trying to play the game and these are the rules that you've given me, and these are tools that y'all using, all right, well, it's time for me to play the game. You see, play the game or go home.
But do you want somebody working on your behalf? Like, do you want to have to interface with somebody in a business environment who use this tool to get their job?
Well, I would consider it no different than, your homeboy, nepotism, or somebody at the company. In a perfect world, I don't want none of it. Right. But you giving me the cards, all right, I'm about to play spades right quick.
This is only going to go so far, because as folks are building AI that's going to do this, the companies are going to be a step behind, but they will figure out. Yeah, looks like are you using AI right now to answer these questions that we're asking you face to face?
Well, and if you have that much interview anxiety anyway, you probably just going to read straight off the answer and sound like you read from a script.
And that's what I was going to say. Like, you're going to get caught up.
If you got that much anxiety, you probably not going to be flowing all smooth based off the teleprompter that you trying to read and not look like you read and not sound like you reading and answer this person's question like a normal person. You know what I mean? Like that, you got bigger problems if this is what you need to get through an interview.
You actually made mention of this, where I see this technology actually being a boon in helping interviewees is doing mock interviews before you actually go to the real interview, to where the AI is not just listening to the questions, it's actually helping you. It's determining questions. In fact, I think this is such a cool idea. I have a friend actually who runs a company. He started a whole software company called Interview App. His name is Brandon Watson's brother that started this software company. And literally this is what his software does. He is trained his software, and I'm not going to do a commercial for him, but he basically trained AI with thousands of interview questions that are asked at the higher levels of an organization for people who are like director level and above. And this allows you to go in and do mock interviews based off of all these interview questions that have been asked that his AI has been trained on. And you can go in there, you can do these mock interviews to just help you better prepare for the interview when you get invited in to go sit down and do the panel interview. They're throwing all these questions at you. Right. This helps you prepare for that. And I see this software that we're talking about here kind of doing something similar, but to actually use it, to have the teleprompter in front of you while you are answering the question, I look at it like this. We are in political season. We're in normally we would be in debate season. Presidential candidates would debate. That's not kind of happening this time around. But what those candidates do before that debate is they prep. They literally will bring someone in that has characteristics of the opponent, and they will do these mock debates just to prepare you for being able to go and do it live in front of a camera. And you can do the same thing with interviews. And like my buddy Brandon, that's that runs Interview App, that's what he built over at his company there, where you can go in and you can do a mock interview to prepare you for the real thing. I think this company might have a better time at it if they readdress and maybe come back with some new marketing on that, as compared to trying to teach somebody how to cheat in an interview.
Well, it sounds like too that they just couple kids threw some tech together, because one of the founders said he admitted that for employers it was an innovative product challenging a lot of status quo, but said, quote, "We don't really care about employers, we care about the employees. We care about how to help our candidates get ready for their next job interviews," end quote. So
that's cool until the candidate that might have got hired this, when the employer that you didn't care about says, "Nah, we don't like how you interviewed. We're going to move on to another candidate." So you got to be careful about that kind of stuff, because last time I checked, when you get hired at companies like this, they got you on a 30, 60, 90 day. type probationary situation, if it comes back to where they were asking you a bunch of questions, you were able to answer them. It's like, well, wait a minute, how come you couldn't answer those questions when you actually here on the job doing the work? Why can't you answer those questions the same way?
It ain't just that. It's if you are totally 100% dependent on this technology to get you through this interview, as soon as the technology blinks, you are going to look way worse than you just learning some tips, going through a mentor, doing mock interviews, whatever the case may be, and then come in as you, because as soon as it blinks,
and what happens when that hallucination pops up that AI is
what happens if you got another tab open and you got some porn on the other end and mess it up because you trying to mess around on your computer because your teleprompter acting up.
Yeah, it's just like, just do the work. I think the moral to this story is do the work, practice. If you need help, speaking in front of other people, like, get that help and do the work. Let's just do the work.
I had no idea we were going to be talking about this as a story today. But on Threads earlier today, I just put a little post out that I basically said that I think the expertise is in many cases highly underrated. Folks just don't, you don't think you have to be an expert in anything, or at least work towards a level of expertise. So if you're out here trying to fake like you can do some front end programming, and when you get in, they're going to figure it out. So like I said at the beginning of this segment, we say a lot of times people are really worried about AI taking their jobs, and they should be. But when you're using tools like this, you are taking your own job potentially with AI. It's like you're replacing yourself
in the foot.
You're replacing yourself. Go learn something.
Go learn, or at least just learn. It's like, yes, we can use AI to do a lot of things, but you still need the critical thinking skills and the background knowledge to even take advantage of the tool at all.
Impersonability.
It's
you
just
read like a robot, it's like, I don't want to work with you.
Yeah, you sound
like a robot. I want somebody, if you
like,
just
stop trying to take a shortcut.
Yeah, if you don't know how to talk about yourself and be sociable, especially in a social environment as work. Now they trying to bring us back into the office. You need them social skills.
They ain't trying. They are bringing us back into the office.
And they're always talking about, good fit. Oh, they weren't a good fit, or this person is a good fit or not a good fit. Yeah, don't make it worse for yourself. Like, just do the work.
Right. So y'all, before we get to the after party, just we'll let folks know that we did not have any new patrons this week, but just want to remind you that if you would like to do things like hang out with us in the after party, which goes on for another 20, 30 minutes after we get done recording the regular show, head over to thetechjohn.com/Patreon. Got multiple tiers over there, any one of which will get you access to our live stream and after party. So folks, with that being said, Tech Life Steph, why don't you tell folks how they can get at you?
You can follow me all around the web, at Tech Life Steph, or head to my website at stephaniehumphrey.com, and feel free to sign up for my newsletter.
And you can see me all over the internet at BrothaTech. That's BrothaTech.
And I am at Robb things. I am at all things at Robb Dunewood. And
Robb also cheating with that teleprompter.
Read right off the prompter.
I froze. I froze right fast. So yeah, I am at Robb Dunewood on all the things. We're also at the Tech John on all the things. So come holler at us however you holler until we meet again in a week's time. Peace.